Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive bug. Today is Thursday and that means female fantasy author feature on my channel, and this week we're talking about Kate Elliott. Kate Elliott is an American writer out of Oregon, and she has like 5 series published and is about to start her next series with a release date this year. When Kate Elliott started out, the first series she wrote was actually a pure science fiction series called the Hiro trilogy. It's about a young woman called Lily Ransom, and Lily is the heir, I think, to like a mining empire on an on a planet, and she has like a martial arts tutor, father figure and friend, and when he is abducted by bounty hunters, she leaves the planet and tries to rescue him and gets involved in interplanetary and stellar like intrigue. And I think there's also a little romance element in it, if I read the synopsis correctly. So that's quite interesting, because you can see like a little development in her kind of career. And yeah, it's interesting to see that she started out with writing a purely science fiction series. That's quite interesting, because her second series, the Jaran, not trilogy, it's a quartet I think, is a blend of science fiction and fantasy. We have a young woman again, and she is going on an alien planet, and there has a coming of age story set in a more like rural rider people kind of setting. So we have that element of science fiction, because we know that there are like different planets, but on the other hand the story seems to be more like a fantasy in a traditional way, because the technology level that the planet has where she then grows up or has her adventure seems to be quite low tech. Next up we have the series that was, I think, the major breakthrough for Kate Elliott. It's the Crown of Stars series. It's a 7-book series, an epic fantasy series set in an alternate history Europe, and it has all the elements of a classic epic fantasy. We have Alan or Elaine, a young man with a destiny, and he is swept up in the conflict for the survival of humanity. So it seems to be like a typical epic fantasy story, as epic as it gets. And yeah, I heard a lot of good things about the series, and it is definitely something I want to try out in the near future. Next up we have the Crossroads series, starting with Spiritgate. This is a very imaginative fantasy, so I think Kate Elliott stepped a bit aside from the very classical but alternate Europe kind of scenario. The world of Crossroads is I think not that classical. We had gods that ruled for a long time, or they are called the guardians in this land, and now they are gone, and they left the reefs, who are like a policing force of riders of great, I don't know, griffins or birds. I think you can see it on the covers, or great eagles, I think it is. But there are few of them left as well. And now we have an uprising of more dark and sinister-minded rebels, and I think we're following a company of people who fight those rebels, and with them is one of those last reefs, and they encounter a young woman who maybe holds the key to saving the land from evil. And yeah, that is a highly imaginative fantasy setting, and I'm really interested to see what this is actually all about. And I think if I read it correct, the new series Kate Elliott will have out at the end of 2015, November 3rd, is called the Black Wolves trilogy, and that series, starting with the Black Wolves, is a companion series or a sequel to this Crossroads setting, because the region where it plays, called the 100, is identical in both series, and so I assume that it is like the same setting. That series, I don't know much about it so far, but it seems to have a bit more of a YA-ish touch. But yeah, I'm not sure to ask what this is all about. But November 3rd, there is like a new series, so that might be a good time to pick up the Crossroads series in preparation for this and get started with Kate Elliott. And last but not least, we have Kate Elliott's most recent trilogy, the Spiritwalker trilogy. That is a very interesting concept. She returns to her alternate Europe kind of roots, but has something completely different here that I've really enjoyed. This is actually the series of her I've read, or I've read like the first 2 books and plan on reading the last installment this year. In this alternate Europe, we still have like an ice age going on, and therefore the world developed quite differently, and the Roman Empire, I think, never fell, so the influence of Rome is still there, but as many parts of the classical Northern European countries are under ice, the development of like Northern African culture is more predominant for the whole like European setting. So we have a lot of influence of Northern African cultures in Europe as well, and on the other hand the influence of Rome. And I think the North Sea is kind of frozen up, so there is like, you can walk from the British Islands to Central Europe, and I think our story starts in the area where we would see the United Kingdom, and we're following Catherine Barahal, who lives with her aunt and uncle and her cousin, and she gets involved in a political kind of scheme when she is forced to marry a cold mage. Therefore the book is called Cold Magic. A mage who is able to manipulate the ice. And I think this is a series that will be appealing to both like adult fantasy readers as well as YA fantasy readers, because with this kind of forced marriage kind of setting, there is a romance element in it, but the romance element is important, but not the driving force that dominates the narrative. So we have this as well, like a little bit of both kind of worlds. The writing is very accessible on the one hand, but not simplistic on the other hand. And yeah, as I said, in contrast maybe to many other YA fantasy novels, the setting is really unique and really well thought out. The setting is kind of, it's not a medieval fantasy, it's more like maybe a little bit pre-steampunk, but it has some steampunk elements, but more in the way I think they have like airships where they travel between Europe and the US. The US is very interesting because actually the natives in the US are trolls in her world, or at least there are trolls in the world, and we're seeing a bit more of like the Caribbean area in the second book called Cold Fire. Yeah, it's very interesting, highly imaginative, and if you want to read something different in fantasy, that is definitely one series to go for. So that's it from me today. I hope you liked this journey into the worlds of Kate Elliott. Next week we are looking at Gail Z. Martin. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. If you want to know what's coming up on my channel, please look inside the description box. There's a little segment there called On the Horizon. I wish you a good day and hope you get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.